Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain? Who could complain? Thomas, first time ever, I'm first to wish everyone a very good morning. Enjoy and count your blessings and sats. Thomas, wonderful. Glad I'm saying hello to you first. El Salvador is definitely a new start for you, and you're getting up even earlier. Quentin, good morning, Bitcoiners. I'm not sure if you're still, I don't know what the time is in El Salvador. I'm not sure how racist you still are for getting up this early, though. You got to watch out for that. Nice work, Thomas. Hassan, good morning. Bitcoin Deb, good morning, Bitcoiners. Need coffee? Stat. We have a sunrise today. Indeed. Sun's up in Florida, Bitcoiner. We love it. Assalamu alaikum. You think people should start saving digital files from online YouTube videos, articles before government sneaks in future KYC internet/digital passport? Current free internet seems temporary. Well, I would say this whole thing's coming down, guys. The internet's going to be just as cool as it was in the 90s pretty soon. We've already lost so much, so I think we were already through it. But I don't know if I would. I'm not going out of my way, if that means anything, Muslim Bitcoiner. I'm not going out of my way. But we'll see. Maybe you're on to something. Good morning, team. Good morning, Matt. Robert says, F mornings, Bitcoiners. I'm night shift and I'm going to have to turn it off and go to sleep by 7:30 Central. Sorry to hear that, Robert. But world's changing. We'll see. We'll see. Head for the Bitcoin border. We love it. We love it. Good morning, Bitcoiners. And Robert, we love that you come here after your shift. It really it means a lot to me. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Hi, Kevin. Hope you're doing well. David. Hi, Nolan and Breakup Gang. T-Dog. Good morning. Woke up late and missed the show yesterday. I guess I'm becoming less racist. Good for you, T-Dog. It's great to be less racist. I'm happy for you. Lightning Ven, good morning, Bitcoin peeps. Good morning, Glenn, from a very wet Del Mar, California. I hope the, what's it called? Like the, I don't know, pineapple something, rain something, vortex something. You guys are screwed. Looks like a lot of rain. Good morning, bullish on Dave Smith at the conference. Great, Tommy. I'm glad you like that. That was all Craig. Craig was on top of that from the beginning, and I'm glad he made it happen. I was a little worried that McCormick stole our thunder because I think Peter McCormick just comes in and takes our speakers for his show, which is fine. Right? No big deal. But I thought we were going to be first at him. In the end, they actually didn't talk much about Bitcoin in the interview. So there you go. And I think the thing about Dave Smith is most Bitcoiners, when they hear him talking, are like, oh, why aren't you into Bitcoin? Because he's so close. But I think he's in. I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see it. And we love the comedians, right? Joe, good morning, all. It's a great day. It sure is. Tommy, inscribing a file to Bitcoin is the only way to... very good. Thank you, Tommy. Yes, indeed. You're correct. Answering Assalamu Alaikum's question, or Muslim Bitcoiners, Assalamu Alaikum. You'd have to know Muslim Bitcoiner is one of the earliest Breakup Gang people, and he taught me how to say that properly in late 2022. So there you go. What's up, Defina? All right, let's just acknowledge we got a major sunrise on our hands. Met Dave in New Hampshire a few years ago. Great guy. Yeah, I think so. I've never met him, actually. I've been trying to get him to speak at one of my shows for a long time, and I congratulate entirely Craig on making it happen. He got in there and convinced him. If you guys don't know Craig Deutsch, another Bitcoin Magazine fella who works with me and Alex McShane on programming of our events. So he brought that in. It's just great. But let's just get back to our business at hand. We know that the sun has risen here on the Atlantic coast of North America, and Bitcoin's running with no problem, guys. We're good. Let's have a coffee. Talk about all the fun stuff that's new. But first, as you know, we got to talk about the fake funny stuff first. Okay, the fake funny stuff first. This comes from the New York Post. People are eating deep fried toothpicks. Health officials, they're warning against it, though, against this bizarre social media trend. So be careful of the toothpick eating out there, guys. But New York Post, not done with the health advice, right? They're warning you against toothpicks, but they're not warning you against this. They're actually saying, that Taco Bell is now the front runner, guys. Taco Bell is the front runner in healthy fast food restaurants. And they let you know what to order. All right, good. Thanks, New York Post. I can go to Taco Bell, the front runner. It's so good. Now, if you're really interested in health, right, there's a burgeoning science of semen retention. You ever heard of this semen retention, folks? Now, it's an important thing for some men. I think it makes sense, right? You feel pretty spent after you use that kind of energy. But NPR are here with some advice. They're letting us know that masturbation abstinence is popular online now. All right. Doctors and therapists are worried. If you read the article, you'll find out that, NPR is not worried about pornography and whack-off addicts. It's not a problem, guys. It's okay. It's fine. Just get one of those new Apple goggle things and whack off all day, and NPR will be happy, and then they won't worry about it, right? Just do the porn thing. Here's another one. Young adults are having heart attacks more often. What's causing it? Now, you had to pay for this article, so I didn't pay for it, but I'm going to guess it's either global warming or racism. It's got to be one of the two, right? It's got to be one of the two. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, young adults dying. There you go. This one's really great. All right, Washington poop. We got a whole bunch of Washington poops here. All right, here we go. As the planet warms, storms are increasingly surpassing what was once considered extreme, according to research published Monday. Now, scientists are proposing a new label. They say a growing number of storms already merit Category 6. What fiat people? You gotta have you gotta go higher. Celsius needs more degrees. We need more temperature, guys. We need more. Okay. Add more numbers. We need more numbers in the numbers. Infinity isn't enough. Add more. Politico answering a question here. This is Politico, everyone. Where's Biden? A bit off stage from the main attraction. Where's Biden? We don't know. It's okay. Washington poop with more stuff here. I got two Phil Bump specials, guys. I got two Phil Bump specials to close out our Moscow time. We know how much we love Phil Bump. What would we do without Phil Bump? Where would we be without Phil Bump? Here we go. These might be, okay, these might be the two greatest articles ever written by Phil Bump. I think they might be. Okay, first of all, here, you got to hear this one. All right, analysis by Phil Bump. I love how they always start that way. If you go on Twitter and read the Washington poop, it'll be analysis by one of their opinion guys. Analysis by Phil Bump. All right, it helps me. At least I get to know. Right, that's a big help to me, actually. Thank you, Washington poop, for putting that in there. Here we go. Okay, there's two headlines for this, though. Okay, this is pure Moscow time. It requires zero comment. Okay, it requires zero comment. All right, here it is. There's two headlines. I'm going to try and read them both. The former president repeats versions of the same nonsense over and over, making critics seem like dullards or scolds. Okay, so that's the beginning, right? That's the palate teaser. But here's the real headline when you click on it. Are you ready? You ready? One of Trump's biggest political assets is his mundanity. He's too boring. Trump's too boring. That's the problem, guys. Phil Bump said it. That's what the Washington Post said. He's so boring. He's boring. Trump is boring. That's what it's come to. Trump is too boring. So good. Okay, we got another one from Phil Bump. Phil Bump, thank you for this wonderful content. I don't know where we would be without this stuff. You know what I would love to see? Phil Bump interviewing, because he doesn't interview anybody. It'd be amazing to see Bukele and him. It would just, like, for just entertainment value, it would be good. So the guy who's telling you in the Washington Post that Trump's political asset is he's boring, he's mundane, his mundanity. Mundanity. Look at the persuasion level of mundanity. What are you up to, Phil? Okay, but here's Phil Bump. If you thought that was good, okay, he's got another one here, right? This one's great. All right, this is my last Moscow time of the day. Ready? JD Vance would have upended democracy over right-wing nonsense. Now, I'm gonna get into the article of it here, okay? Because it's top quality, top shelf stuff, okay? JD Vance, by the way, one of the owners of Rumble or investors in Rumble. So thank you, JD Vance, for creating the platform. People don't know this, but JD Vance, I think, is a sneaky Bitcoiner. And we're trying to get him big time at our show in Nashville in July. So I'm a fan of JD Vance. Here's what Phil Bump says about JD Vance. So JD Vance gave an interview regarding, and one of the questions asked to him on ABC News was, what would you have done if you were the vice president during Trump's presidency? And he came to you with the thing he came to that caused January 6th. So that's where things go. But first, Phil's got to help us out, right? You're not going to trip up Senator Vance by presenting him with his past disparagements of Donald Trump. Vance has spent years reframing those comments, as when he said that Trump was leading our political discourse to a very negative place, right? So he's saying, well, you know, he's on the Trump team now. He's flipping, right? Here we go, right? Asked, for example, how he felt about Trump's having been found liable for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll, one of many women who have accused Trump of misconduct, Vance waved it away, right? So this is Phil Bump at his best. This is Phil Bump at his best. But this is the best they got. But this is him at his best. I think it's actually very unfair to the victims of sexual assault, Vance said, to say that somehow their lives are being worse by electing Donald Trump for president, when what he is trying to do, I think, is restore prosperity, right? So here's Phil Bump's response to that, right? And no admission that it had nothing to do with rape or sexual assault. It was just defamation, right? That was the whole case. We know that, okay? But look at what the dumb people are being dealt. Right? Look at the hand they're being dealt by Phil Bump. Clever stuff. Not bad. Right? So he goes into the economic thing that he's trying to increase prosperity, and Phil Bump's answer is the prospect of future economic benefit may not be the consolation for assault victims that Vance assumes. It's pretty good. So he's saying, oh, you know, the JD Vance goes on to say that New York is one of several extremely left-wing jurisdictions where Trump is facing charges, implying that this was stacking of the deck against Trump instead of the result of his alleged crimes while he lived in those jurisdictions. The argument that the jury would rule against Trump simply because of politics, of course, is of a piece with the prevalent idea on the right that Democrats are members of a credulous hive mind. So here's the January 6th part, right? So he says he would have definitely sent it back to the states. So JD Vance in this interview says he would have absolutely given the states the chance to go and review their elections, right? So here's what he says, right, about the problems and elections and da-da-da-da. So he says that the Pennsylvania thing had problems. That's why he'd send it back. So Bump says, Pennsylvania expanded voting access to allow more mail-in ballots. That's true, right? There's been too much. And so one of the judges came out and said, right, that people had already voted by the millions under the law, and the law of voting by mail was legal in 2020 with COVID, right? So he says, so even if it shouldn't have been in place, those legal votes should not be tossed out. That's what the judge said. And Phil Bump is like, of course, right? That was the law. You were allowed. It's not a scam. You were allowed to do that. Which is what Vance argues. Because the rules were changed, those votes should have had their opinions disregarded, since, you know, that was a problem. So he's saying here that, no, the rules were, and Bump is right about this. He's totally right, right? He's right, but he's removing the context, right? We had a mail-in vote. It's okay. Here's the best part, though. The short version of all of this goes as follows, right? Elon Musk this is Phil Bump's writing, believing rhetoric that Twitter sought to crack down on right-wing accounts and viewpoints, stumbled into buying the company, right? Stumbled. He turned over internal material to writers motivated to similarly believe that originating rhetoric. And December 2022, they began producing cherry-picked documents to suggest that the government told the social media site to silence right-wing voices. This included muffling coverage of Hunter Biden in October 2020, an event that has been overhauled in the right's collective memory to have been determinative in the election results. It wasn't, he says. It wasn't, right? Don't worry about it. And then this is Phil Bump defining reality, guys. This is where it really gets to the next level, right? This is Phil Bump deciding or describing reality to all of us idiots, right? Rubes, morons. The reality is that the government sought the help of social media companies, guys. They were just like, hey, Zuckerberg, I need your help. I need your help, Mark. I don't know what to do about the elections. Please help me. It's so hard, right? So people are talking. So they just sought the help, guys. It's so cool. It's so fine. They were just looking for help. That's it. It's just honest and innocent government just looking for help. They're just looking for help. In halting misinformation about voting and about the coronavirus pandemic, given that Russian hackers had been the trigger for a wide release of stolen information in 2016 in an effort to swing the election, there were also conversations about being alert to potential foreign interference efforts. When the Hunter Biden story broke only weeks before election day, it was briefly muted out of concern. It was a similar effort. It was briefly. He puts that in parentheses. Briefly. It was briefly. Just briefly. It's just briefly. Lawyers for X have acknowledged that Vance's framing is incorrect. But consider lawyers for X. What the fuck is he talking about? What's more, that they should have rejected for that reason in January 2021, nearly 2 years before these dubious and debunked allegations were made, because we knew they were fake from the beginning. He didn't need the Twitter files. Here's the best part. That's the giveaway, really. Vance isn't staying there, isn't saying there were problems that necessitated reconsidering the 2020 election results, giving Trump a second term in office. What he's saying, and what Trump has done all along, is that he wishes Trump had a second term in office, which came down to the January 6th counting of electoral votes. And so we offer some after the fact rationalizations for what would have been okay. This is now Bump addressing JD Vance. This is intellectually dishonest and deeply problematic for democracy. If there were still any question, hold on. If there was still any question, JD Vance made clear in this interview that he was willingly followed Trump into a very negative place he once warned about. It's pretty good stuff. It's pretty good stuff, right? All right, so it shouldn't be any confusion to you. It shouldn't be difficult to understand why the fake news as an industry is failing, right? If you read the Phil Bump stuff and every bit of our Moscow time stuff, you'll have the context to understand Prof. Sainonja's tweet from yesterday. He says, bloodbath of layoffs in mainstream media as 20,000 fake news activists must learn to install drywall. So Prof. Sainonja here talking about journalism as a business model, right? What's driving it? A collapse of trust, Prof. Sainonja says. A record 40% of Americans have zero trust at all in corporate media. Instead, Americans are turning to alt media on X and Twitter, from Joe Rogan to Alex Jones to these daily videos to the Breakup, right? That's why we're here, right? That's why we do this, because there's no way to get decent news other than having coffee together and having us check each other and gauging what's maybe real, maybe not, right? Robert Kennedy says the same thing, right? Of course, with Tucker Carlson going to Russia today, all the fake news people are saying, or he went yesterday, interviewed Putin. Oh, what's he doing? He's a traitor. He's a traitor. He can't be talking to Putin, right? So Kennedy says the legacy media is in shambles because we've caught on to their lies and propaganda. Tucker Carlson has every right to interview Putin. We need more transparency instead of less. It used to be understood journalists would interview world leaders, even those with whom we were at war. So Kennedy absolutely correct here, right? Absolutely correct. But here's the good news, everyone. It's not working. Literally, the best people they have are the Phil Bumps. That's why they're having to fire all these people. No one reads this shit anymore. Doge designer, CB Doge, put this out today. He says, breaking, biggest news websites in the world see traffic slumps for second month in a row, while traffic for X is at an all-time high. Traditional media is a direct competitor to X, one of the reasons why they are pushing fake articles targeting Musk. Now we see MSN is down 25% year over year. Google is down 17% year over year. CNN, same. 14%. Fox is down. They're all down. The lowest is Yahoo Finance, down 4%. New York Times only down 5%. BBC, double-digit losses. Every one of them, right? Double-digit losses. Because they don't tell you anything. Here's just a list. This is from Vigilant Fox, right? Vigilant Fox, great follow on X, Twitter. And here he is talking. He does this every week. He does it every Monday. It's the media blackout. 10 news stories they chose not to tell you. It's on episode 8, right? So number 10, Ed Dowd reveals alarming excess data in children, excess death data in children. We talked about that yesterday and last week a bit. Number 9, the January 6th pipe bomber was actually a government official, according to reports. Number 8, RFK Jr. exposes Joe Biden's racist past in viral post. Number 7, Megyn Kelly thinks E. Jean Carroll may have just handed the election to Trump. Number 6, the data is clear. COVID-19 vaccination does not protect against severe hospitalization and death. Number 5, iconic rapper Snoop Dogg makes a surprising statement about Donald Trump. Number 4, WHO chief admits info warriors are hindering the NWO agenda. So the New World Order agenda. Number 3, James O'Keefe drops viral video with top White House cyber official. Number 2, Tucker Carlson warns against the true motives behind the globalist agenda. Number 1, Australian man injured by Pfizer jab wins landmark case against the employer. I'm reading weird today. I don't know what's wrong. I keep missing some words. It's okay. And that's why one of my main predictions, guys, right? I am the only Bitcoiner that's going to tell you that UBI is a must. It's a must, right? UBI is a must, and I'll explain why. UBI is a must because I don't want to see all of these journalists killing themselves. It's just too much death, right? Because what are they going to do next? What are they going to do? Are they going to do the drywall thing like Prof. St. said? No, their brains are completely useless. They're broken. They can't do anything. Now, they might want to go kill themselves. Mehdi Hassan is saying he might now. Mehdi Hassan has been fired from MSNPC. He's fired from all over, right? So Mehdi Hassan, reading a poll yesterday, tweeted the following: more Americans believe Trump would be a competent president. He says, competent than Biden, right? He's all confused about a poll that Americans answered that Trump may be the funniest stand-up comedian in America, maybe, right? That Trump, right, which we can all see, that the vegetable Biden and Trump, who gives still to this day 10,000 unsolicited, unscripted words every time he speaks in public at some of the biggest rallies in the country, that guy's mentally incapacitated. A guy who's 70-something years old and credibly running a young man's campaign. When I look at Trump's campaign, I mean, I don't like that he's so old, right? I prefer Vivek's age and what that brings to the table. But Trump's policies, these are a young man's game policies that he's offering. The Freedom Cities, it's amazing. The Freedom City stuff is awesome, right? Trump University, the old Trump scam university, but the Trump, whatever he's talking about to get rid of the federal government credentialism addiction to universities, that makes sense. He's got all kinds of policies that are a young man's game, really. He's been doing great at it. And Mehdi Hassan says all this, right? That he's surprised that most Americans think that Trump is more competent than Biden. And what does he say? He says, kill me now. Sure, go to Canada, Mehdi. You might have been one of those people that said, oh, I'm going to move to Canada if Trump is elected. Please go. Go get the health care. They're going to lead you right to where you got to go. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be perfect. Now, it's either UBI or Canadian healthcare. That's what the journalists have going forward. They get Canadian healthcare, right, which goes to one place, Canadian healthcare, right? You're sad. Sad is okay now. Sad is a reason to kill yourself. It is in Canada. It's policy. It's policy. If you're sad in Canada, just go get some healthcare, and the doctor is going to say, hey, buddy, why don't you kill yourself? Right? So, Medi, you're going to be fine, Medi. Just go to Canada, chill out for a little while. There'll be no Trump around there. And then soon enough, you'll qualify for the best jab going. It's the best jab going. All right, Medi? It's the best jab you're ever going to get in your whole life. You're going to love it. It's going to be way better than 100 COVID jabs. It's going to be the best. It's going to be the best. All right? Now, it's either that or they get UBI. No hope for them to get Bitcoin. The IQ isn't there. The brain damage is too great. And in the end, right, all of this stuff about the media failing, right, that's why, and I think the border case is going to be one of these things, and it already is, that's exposing the mental illness of people like Mehdi Hassan and people that carry the bags for all of these fiat node propagation monsters, right? So that it's happening, that you've got all of these people that are journalists openly saying, kill me, just kill me, right? Because truthfully, the media has done the worst job possible. It's the opposite of their real job, which is to give you information and something resembling the truth, right? That's not it. Their goal is to get people elected to share power with them. That's it. On all sides, Republican. That's one of the great things that Trump did, right? I've said it before, why people like me will always love Donald Trump. Donald Trump killed the uniparty sect within the Republican Party in 2016. There are still vestiges of it. We see it. This Langford guy, the guy running the border bill, the Republican, right? So right away, you can see how the fake news operates with him. He's a Republican from Oklahoma. And the fake news here is covering his recent attacks on Elon Musk, because Elon Musk has been saying, the border bill is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's an election scam. It's about getting people driver's licenses so they can vote illegally, which is entirely true in 2020. Remember, I've told you, I voted for Biden 5 times, right? Five ballots. Not a single eligible voter in my house in Brooklyn. We got 5 ballots. So now Langford, right, and the media is covering it. Langford attacks Elon Musk over Tesla's being recalled, right? So Langford says, I'm a legislator, and you're out there, you should focus on your cars. And this was a fake news story that was sort of all around last week. Do you know what it really was? Do you want to know what the recall of Teslas was? It was an automatic software update that you do on your phone every day. No cars were sent home. They made it sound like you were driving a car that was going to fall apart and it was a death trap. That's not real. It was something that no operator of a Tesla even noticed happened. It was a software update. Langford calls it a recall. Fake, completely fake news, right? Completely fake news. So between that and here's a story in just going after the truth, right? And what is there and being able to present it. That's why people don't trust the media, because they're leading them to this mental illness stuff. Here's what the border security bill and people are saying about it, right? This is what Martyr Maid said about it, right? So Martyr Maid says the following. And it was a really good observation about both parties, saying here, there is no disagreement between Democrats and Republicans on either border security or unlimited aid to Ukraine and Israel. It's a shell game. The negotiations are fake, and they're all on the same side. The game is to pretend they're compromising so that the parts unpopular with each other's side can be blamed on the other, right? Which is exactly it. You did this, I did that. And then there's no accountability. None of these politicians have any accountability, right? That's why you get politicians like Schumer, who can go on the fake news yesterday. And this is what he says, right? He says that if the border bill is killed, America will regret it. Ukraine will lose the war. The fuck does that have to do with it? Well, we know, because it's all about money, right? Israel will not defeat Hamas. Palestinians will starve to death, and Americans might fight in Europe. So he's saying, Schumer is saying, if you don't give us what we want, we're going to send your kids over to Ukraine to die, right? sort of persuasive, but it's a threat. And you don't know how people are going to react to those kinds of threats, right? So one could imagine that this is going to continue to strip away at the credibility of these folks, right? So he can come out and say that, right? Just threaten the American population with packing of bills. There's also no accountability. So these people don't have any accountability, which is why I believe that this Langford guy has to be destroyed. The Republican Trump is going to do it. Here's what Trump is now, and it's something I predicted about 2 weeks ago, and we're seeing it now. Here's what Trump said about the border bill. All right. He calls it horrendous. Only a fool or a radical left Democrat would vote for this horrendous border bill, which only gives shutdown authority after 5,000 encounters a day, when we already have the right to close the border now, which must be done. This bill is a great gift to the Democrats and a death wish for the Republican Party. It takes the horrible job the Democrats have done on immigration and the border, absolves them, and puts it squarely on the shoulders of Republicans. Don't be stupid. We need a separate border and immigration bill. It should not be tied to foreign aid in any way, shape, or form. The Democrats broke immigration and the border. They should fix it. Make America great again. Trump, in this letter, is showing that he's actually now the prime minister of America. So Americans are not really that familiar with the parliamentary system. You know, France, for example, uses a double system, right? You have a direct election for a president, but the president does not command the legislative branch. The legislative branch in the French system is commanded by the prime minister, who is the most important congressman in the hall. Prime minister simply means most important congressman. It's a very loose way for Americans to understand it. The Canadian system, for example, all of our cabinet, ministers, secretaries of whatever, and the prime minister are just congressmen. That's why we can change leaders without a direct election. We don't directly elect our leader. We elect the House and the Senate, and then the House, the leader of the party that controls the majority of the House, creates the prime minister. That's why we can change leaders. If they change the leader, we have a new prime minister. If Justin Trudeau in Canada stepped down tomorrow and they put some other libtard in there, that would be the prime minister. There'd be no election. Now, the election dates remain the same, right? This government will be over in Canada, I think in 2025 is the end of the road for them. But that also means we don't have fixed elections necessarily. We passed a law in Canada to fix elections, but it can be broken. You can still have an election earlier. So now what Trump is doing, because he's the presumptive candidate, he actually has power over the Republicans that are in the House and the Senate. He can whip votes now, which makes him a quasi prime minister. He can actually get into the legislative material and start pushing people around. He can whip the whip, and he can whip the leaders of the Senate. He can whip the leader of the House. And by having the whip, that's called the whip right there. I worked in a whip's office once. We had an actual whip, like a whip, right? For real. Like there was an actual whip. And you could take it to people's offices and tell them, right, you're not going on. And the way it was done was it was just take away their junkets and fun things, right? You can't go on this trip. You can't have this money. You can't go there. You can't do this. You can't do that unless you do what we say. So Trump can do that now. Trump can start forcing and bullying, and he's a great bully, right? He could start bullying people like Langford. And I think this Oklahoma senator is done after this. I think Republicans are going to kill him. Not really. I'm against violence, but they're going to destroy his career for this. This is the last bit of holdout that Trump started on destroying in 2015 and 2016. This is why people like me will always love him, because he went after the internal infection inside of the Republican Party first and started pushing them to the edges. And now Langford, this guy, I mean, he looks like, I mean, he's look at the physiognomy of this guy. Would you trust Langford? Look at him. He's one of the sketchiest looking people in that chamber by far. No credibility, doesn't look like he's telling the truth. And again, look at what this is. Tucker Carlson. Some people have a news outlet in Russia interviewed some folks about what they thought about Tucker Carlson, and just listen to what they have to say. Right? He is known for telling the truth. He is the bravest and most courageous American journalist today. I deeply admire his courage. His rationality, logic, and understanding of good and evil are qualities worthy of respect. He provides a very good presumption of information with a good sense of humor. I'm delighted that he came to Russia. But remember what they said, this thing about going after the truth. right? Now, the truth is entirely subjective. We all know that, right? But you can still recognize it when you see it, right? You can still feel it. You can still get a sense of something being deceptive. Like Phil Bump's, when I really dislike even reading Phil Bump's stuff because it's so, the line he walks is so fine because it's all just a rhetorical manipulation, right? So these guys are skilled at what they do. And it creates in me a certain type of cognitive dissonance and anger. So I have to force myself to read it. And I'm able to, right? But that's what you see. Here's a story that that's kind of going viral. It's a TikTok video of a guy. I can't see his name here. You'll have to see it. Oh yeah, it's Jaded with J. A lot of people talking about it. It's called The Awakening. It's like a 10-minute TikTok. He's got a few of them. And it's him saying, I used to think Trump was evil. I thought these people were evil. I thought all of this was terrible, but I stopped, right? I started to think a little bit. And he said it was really hard because he would try to read things. He said a good friend of his who he knows is opposite political sides of him. As long as they didn't talk about politics, they were still friends. He recognized this person as someone who wouldn't harm him, right? He just disagrees with him, but is not an evil person. And so this person recommended a book. He didn't say which book. It sounds like he watched the What is a Woman movie too. He doesn't say what his materials are in his TikTok, but he says, I watched a movie made by someone who I thought was evil. They asked a simple question and none of the people that I followed were able to answer. And it didn't seem like a mean question. They just weren't able to. And he saw the brainwashing of the people trying to answer what is a woman. I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing. But he said simple question. And so that's what I inferred it was. But then he starts talking about reading this book. And he talks about how difficult it was at first. Because just like when I read the Phil Bump stuff, when I read it, it angers me, right? But I'm okay. And I've trained myself. And as a Bitcoiner, we're pretty used to living in a world where things don't conform with our wishes and our wants and what we want the world to be, right? Because it's not quite there yet. So we have to enter environments where we get this kind of cognitive dissonance in order to protect ourselves, in order to defend against our own biases and our own ability to mislead ourselves and delude ourselves, right? So he goes there and he talks about how hard it was to get through this. And then little by little, paragraph by paragraph, page by page, this feeling started to go away. And now he has this incredible appetite for the truth because he's now realized that everything he understood as the defining contrast in politics was fake, that he was living in a fake reality created for him by people that would keep him in this fake prison of two ideas. Exactly what I put in my Bitcoiner's Guide to NPC Management. So what you see here is someone modeling an NPC waking up, right? He modeled an NPC waking up, and he's almost in tears, right? So Unhoodwinked here says, and he shared it with Scott Adams because Scott Adams has been talking about modeling. The best way to do this is to model it, right? When you see someone do it, it gets modeled, and then you can copy it. So saying, we have a former hypnotized team player unlocking his mind and recognizing how freeing it is. This is the perfect example of someone who swallowed their ego, humbled themselves, and sought understanding. He now sees both movies on the same screen. Inspiring, right? And it really, really was. It was neat to see and neat to hear, and it was great. Now, when you think about how there's no when you think about how there's no real disagreement on the border, on Ukraine, it's all fake, made up to pump people on either side, you start to understand why things like stealing and Zelensky and how poorly everything has gone in Ukraine might actually start tipping more people to this awakening like this fella so that they will model it too. Here's what David Sachs writes. He says, according to famed reporter Seymour Hersh, CIA Director Burns had to warn Zelensky to stop stealing so much money. Also, Zelensky's subordinates were upset that he was taking too large a cut of the spoils, something to keep in mind as the political crisis plays out in Kiev. We've also seen that when he fired this general last week, right? The general who expected the firing the night before he was fired went with one of the neo-Nazi people, right? You know, because they've got real Nazis in Ukraine, right? The real deal, right? The one that was in the Canadian Parliament a little while ago, that guy, his descendants were all still in Ukraine, right? They have we love the Nazi parades and all that kind of stuff. So he went and took a picture with this guy and held up their like Nazi document or whatever that they have to signify party membership as a threat to Zelensky, saying like, I control the neo-Nazis, buddy. David Sachs writes, most Americans have no idea who and what we've been supporting in Ukraine. And I think that's exactly true, right? So if you take those deceptions and the lying and what's happened already, you can start to see the path by which many people will try to pull their way out of this thing, right? And the modeling is going to be easy to find. It's not just individuals, right? Because indeed, the way the legal system has been corrupted, the way the media has been corrupted, it turns out that El Salvador, at a national level, models this kind of change with its Bitcoin adoption the same way that an individual is able to model their own personal liberation and experience to help inspire others. So I'll explain what I mean. I've said for a while that countries like El Salvador and now Argentina and others are actually modeling for America how to fix our own domestic problems when it comes to money and banking and the real source of the brainwashing machine and the military industrial complex. So Pleb Cruz, Dr. Jack Cruz, a fella in El Salvador, wrote this yesterday after Bukele's historic win, right? Historic, right? Biggest victory in a democratic election in the history of the world, is what I understand. And so he says this, what is the ARC about? So calling El Salvador an ARC in this case, right? Like Noah. Before the exception rule came Bitcoin legal tender law. Freedom of money was given to the people first. Then attention was turned to his citizens. He dealt with the corrupt judges. He eliminated them so that they could not affect the next part of the rebuild, which was the gangs. The gangs stole directly from the people in the direction of FMLN and arena politicians, and this acted like inflation. Bukele saw all this develop as the mayor of 2 cities in El Salvador before he ran for president. Gang extortion was a tax on the public without legislation. Being soft on crime was hard on citizens, hard psychologically, economically, and physically. I still see the scars today where I live in El Salvador. Once crime was solved, many people from around the world came to El Salvador to see the Renaissance, and the money these people brought fueled the building of the infrastructure that no one can miss if you come here. Bitcoin was like the Madison Avenue advertising arm of this plan. Now you have Bitcoin culture building in the country. You have a politician redirecting resources to the public good. Previous administrations, like Tony Saka, stole the money or built huge 40,000 square foot mansions with money meant to rebuild a post-Civil War nation. Bukele did all of this in 4.5 years. The people have rewarded him with 5 more years. Now, I went to El Salvador right when he was elected in 2019. And I can tell you firsthand, this is a huge change. Like it's rare that I feel in danger in a country. It was dangerous as hell there. And this was still when Bukele was president. This was a year and a half before he even announced the Bitcoin thing, right? So this was early. This was before COVID even. So what is Bukele saying to you all now? He is saying to the West, continue to doubt me. Noah didn't stop building the ark to explain himself to everyone who doubted and hated him. Keep building your ark. The rain will do the talking. The rain is money failing inside the USA and in the US Treasury markets. By the time the voters in the West hear the thunder, it will be too late to build their ark. El Salvador is ready for the storm because they began when the sun was out. Are you ready? Is your president building an ark? Or are they taking a chainsaw to the foundational values of your country? Now, I disagree with his word chainsaw because I love motosierra from Milei's talking points when it came to what to do with Argentina. Motosierra. I'll do motosierra all day. It's the chainsaw in Spanish, right? Ask yourself these questions now. Some of us have, which is why we are here, doing what we can to help spread freedom. So indeed, and if you just look at what's happening in America this week, you've got the ridiculous Jay Powell, who I love. I mean, he's a lawyer, so I think he's like a hostage, right? He's out there talking about on 60 Minutes on Sunday night, talking about what's going on with the banks and if we don't stop. Again, sounding exactly like a hostage. I don't know if you saw the 60 Minutes interview. He sounds like someone who is trying to give you the winks that we're fucked in America, right? And he's been saying it for a while. His answer to, is the U.S. going to lose reserve currency, is always the same. As long as we're rules based, there will be an appetite for democratic money. Samson Mao reacted to his interview on 60 Minutes, and he said the only way out of a death spiral is to move to, and he admits it's a death spiral, right? Is to move to harder money, which is Bitcoin. This only works for the nation states that act quickly. Laggards won't be able to escape the spiral. GDP cannot keep up with spending and debt service. The game is up. And that's what we're seeing, guys. We're seeing, and then, here's the plan. Janet Yellen today is going to talk to House lawmakers, all right, about the threats that crypto poses to the U.S. system. How much credibility does this lady have with them? None. Right? Buy Bitcoin Girl is not going to persuade many Trumpers or anyone. So what we have here is a great case of chaos. And it looks like the mental illness that is being perpetrated and propagated by the fiat system is coming to an end. People simply don't want to be that poor and unhealthy. They can't handle it. They don't want it. Some people will accept poverty and sickness. It's true. There will be some who accept it, but not more. They're not going to be attracting more people to their cause. And the ones they're losing aren't coming back. And they're losing people pretty quickly. And there's nothing more aberrant and disgusting than sickness and poverty, right? People don't want to be around that. And that's what they're cultivating. That's why I called today the borderline personalities. The border is really showing us we're dealing with not a political problem. We're dealing with a brainwashing and mental illness problem. And the brainwashing and mental illness are possible, brought to you by the US Treasury and the Federal Reserve System. So that we are dealing with a mental health epidemic that, even Mehdi Hassan is asking for some Canadian healthcare. Like it's UBI and Canadian healthcare for most of these people, unfortunately. I used to think we could save everyone. I don't know if it's going to happen. All right. Let's see what people are saying over on Rumble. Actually, let me get to a couple of these first. A lot of nice comments here too. No accountability. Jury duty. Johnny, jury duty too. Everyone's got jury duty. Folks sent me a letter on Jen and it said I had to return my jury survey or they will fine me. Whoops. You had one day. Thumbs up for journalists using Canadian maids. Yeah, they're all going to that, man. That's where they're headed. No accountability at all. Sounds like you are even more entrenched in a two-party system than in the USA. They've got 4 parties in Canada, really. 4 federal parties. 5. I forgot about the Greens. The U.S. government treachery, corruption, war crimes, and contempt for the American people know no bounds and is actually high treason against the U.S. Constitution. That's why we're into the space drops, guys. That's why it's all about space drops. Greetings and salutations. Literal Nazis can't make this shit. See you, Robert. Have a good sleep, my man. I was there last year. It's even better now. Construction everywhere. People seemed optimistic and happy. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Imagine holding American government bonds. Hey, what's up, P-Man? Hope you're doing well, P-Man Van. All right, let me see what people are saying over on Rumble. All right, what are people saying? Wake and break, French fry. Good morning, Bitcoiners. The sun has risen and Bitcoin is working as intended. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Good afternoon, Sluggo. I've been watching your show for a while. Love it. A big shout out to Bitcoin. Bye. Thanks, VHC. Good morning, everyone. Crypto Joe says. Zim Katie made it. Smartinez. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Sluggo123. You gotta be kidding. Fiat people are demonic. F them all. Software update. Yeah. Software update. Yeah. Border insecurity bill, Lance says. Roy Cup. I'm very impressed with your LinkedIn. Senate of Canada for 5 years. You're a survivor. Yeah, it was a great time. That's where I did a Bitcoin study there. That's why I was there for that long. I got the Bitcoin study in 2013. So that's what I was pretty much ready to get out of there. The reason I ran for the Canadian Congress, by the way, that's why I was working in the Senate. It's kind of you can kind of do both. So I was in my hometown candidate for our federal Congress called Parliament. The fake news and the fake government need to get with the people. Democrats and Republicans are the same party. MAGA is not Republican. Vivek is not Republican. The current parties are corrupt. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, MAGA is not Republican, Top Scott. I agree with that 100%. I'm a Vivek fan. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Vivek is not Republican. Yeah, of course. No. I've been an anti-Republican since Trump won the original Trump thing, right? Since low energy Jeb Bush, since before. I was one of the people that my jaw dropped when low energy Jeb Bush came out. I said, that did it. That's a kill shot. He's dead. He finished him. He finished the Bush dynasty with one joke. It's amazing, right? For people like me that were against these people earlier, it was a big win, right? You can feel when something is authentic. Tucker is that. Yeah. Shouldn't you start using Rumble Studio and stream to X2? I do stream to X. I'm on X. I will start to use the Rumble Studio Sluggo123, but I instantly got caught in a scam last week when I signed up. There was an old deprecated Rumble Studio, which I fucking signed up for, made a password. So now I had to go in, and it was my shit password for shit accounts. So I had to go fix that, and I can't use that one now. So I had to start another one. Anyway, it's what I thought would happen. It's not as easy as just signing up. I will, though. I want to move over because I actually have to pay for Restream. It's like $500 a year. And I think my thing is coming up soon. I think my renewal is like in February. So if I can avoid paying $500 or something, I definitely will, which is why I want the Rumble Studio. So I'm not paying $500 again next year, that's for sure. So I think it should work out. I just haven't had a chance to sign it up. Like I said, I did sign up for one Rumble Studio, a fake one. It's fake. It wasn't real. It was the first one that popped up on DuckDuckGo. I thought it was real. It's not. And or it was an old one. I guess Rumble might have bought the name. They have a new name now, these guys. I was like, what's going on here? But that led me to just quitting that job for the day. But I got to do it. I had an injury this weekend too, which is why I wasn't able to get to it. All right. Really good session, Nolan. Thanks a lot. CB's behind. Enjoy your day, folks. Indeed. Jason says, I credit Dr. Jack Cruz with my Bitcoin awakening. Great. I didn't know that. Amazing. Yeah, he's a neat guy. I love Bukele. Is doing the best he can do with what he's got, and we should never judge a man before walking a mile in his shoes. No, we love Bukele. Yeah, we're not judging Bukele at all. We love Bukele. I don't have a problem with all this, like the arresting people with face tattoos. I'm okay. Like, I'm not worried about the Democrat thing. All right. There was one more piece of fake news that I forgot to give you, and I will do it now because it was sent to us by CK, one of the original Breakup morning crew people, and it was pretty funny. So I want to grab it here. Where is it? It was a good piece of fake news. Let me see if I have it. Let me see. No, maybe I erased it. Or I didn't even take a... No, I don't even think I got the... Oh, no, I definitely did. Now I know what's going on. Yeah, here it is. This is from CK, right? So just watch the subtle fake news. You'll all know it right away. But this is what we got to do, right? The Senate's bipartisan bill on immigration and foreign aid is facing stronger opposition from some lawmakers, with Speaker Johnson declaring it dead on arrival in the House. Concerns among some Democrats are growing regarding the potential impact for future aid to Ukraine if the bill doesn't succeed. It's too good. So anyone who gets tricked by this stuff, right, you get what you deserve, I guess. Was in El Salvador, in mountains by Honduras for immersion trip through church. Wow, very cool. Very cool. It was probably okay there. Probably not so violent. I just remember the machine guns everywhere and fucking like that. I don't like that. I'm for your right to have a machine gun, but I don't want to see a machine gun on a security guard when I go in to buy a bottle of water or a coffee. That's irritating. All right, team. That's all I got for today. Enjoy your day.